All right. So today we have a big opportunity today. How long did it take us to get this scheduled?
Man, it's been in the waiting, but it's perfect timing. Gary.
Perfect timing.
Way perfect
We've been
timing.
back and forth, because your schedule is way busier than mine. So thank you for carving out the time for us. I really appreciate it.
Man, I'm grateful for the opportunity, man.
And we're going to have some fun because as anyone who's watched this before, they know that we try to bring value to consumer.
Yeah.
And we try to bring value to our realtor friends that watch us. Hopefully they can learn something and grow their business as well. And you have all that. I mean, you are an active agent.
Yes.
You are a part of a team that you're helping to grow.
Yep.
And you have your own business where you coach and teach and train.
Yes.
And so, typically we segment these conversations for the consumer and for the realtor. But I think in this particular scenario, I'm just going to let you run with it because, as we discussed, what is good for the realtor is typically good for the buyer in terms of education.
That's right.
So if it's good for the realtor and it's good for the buyer and it's good for the seller, then the conversation doesn't have to be
That's right.
siloed, right?
Yep.
So first things first, I would like for you to tell me you're a professional baseball player, your walk-up song. Since we're in the introductory mode here,
Yeah.
What's your walk-up song if you're leadoff hitter?
Man, we're just getting started with that. That's awesome. So walk-up song. Well, what most people actually, walk-up songs typically are high energy songs, right? Pump me up songs,
Right.
Bring energy to the crowd or bring energy to the person. Anybody who spent like maybe 5 or 10 minutes with me may know that I have like way too much energy. So my walk-up song actually is more grounding.
Okay.
It's actually the opposite of what normally people would do. It happens to be my favorite band, Pearl Jam.
Okay.
So my walk-up song is actually a song called Just Breathe.
Okay.
And Just Breathe is probably the opposite of what you would think of most walk-up songs. But for me, the song is all about, it's grounded in being in the moment.
Right.
Being with the people you're with, and understanding that every moment's not guaranteed. And the whole song is about finding the ability to be where you are.
Right.
And embracing the moment you're in and understanding that nothing's guaranteed. So that would be the song I think I'm ready to walk up to, only because I think I need to be calmed down.
Well, that's perfect because, look, the industry is frenetic.
Yes.
We've had a lot of interest rate volatility. We've had some real estate market volatility. Prices continue to go up with total disregard to what interest rates are doing.
Yeah.
Or the political landscape. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good choice for a walk.
Sometimes we need calming down actually in a frenetic moment. Yeah.
So we had a brief discussion earlier. What got you here? How did you decide to get in the real estate business and how has that changed your life and the life of your family and everyone you come in contact with?
Wow. So, man, the story is not unlike a lot of real estate agents. I think it's funny. I'm turning 46 in 3 weeks. And I've realized that 46 years old, where I hope I'm at my half life, right? That every moment's not guaranteed. And then I think there's moments in our life that happen to us where we are shaken with the fact that our life's not guaranteed, that time's not guaranteed. And I think time is such a huge reason why agents get into real estate, actually. For me, it was 20 years ago. I happened to be blessed with marrying my high school sweetheart. And I can remember it was literally 20 years ago in September, in 2005. I can remember distinctly dancing with my mother on September 9th, 2005 at my wedding. And my wedding was obviously a special moment for me, marrying my high school sweetheart. But it was also a huge moment for my mother at the time because I was one of 3 boys. I am one of 3 boys. And that moment dancing with her, I remember us talking about the future, grandchildren, and the future that was in front of us with her son, her favorite son, obviously, the middle, was marrying the only daughter figure she ever had. And that shaking moment for me was losing my mother 4 months after that wedding. And I was in the restaurant business and I was working hundreds of hours a week. And I think a lot of real estate agents can reflect back on their start in their career in the fact that they got in because of something that had to do with time. For me, it was the fear of realizing that the time that I'm spending at that restaurant, I'm missing moments that aren't guaranteed to me. And so I got driven into the real estate business because I had a horrible agent who didn't actually trust, I couldn't trust, I couldn't believe in. They weren't guiding me in the best possible way. And so my whole life experience, and I literally realize now in life that we are made up of our current situation and our future on life experiences that happen to us.
This wouldn't be the first time that I've heard that a horrible agent drove someone to become
we don't want to do that,
professional realtor, right?
Yeah, it's actually a story that I've heard so much from agents all over the country as I'm actually traveling and talking to agents around the country. But most importantly, most of the agents I talk to get into real estate because they want their time back. They want to control their schedule. They want to control their time. And that's what I did. I wanted my life back. I wanted my time back. And I wanted to enjoy what I was doing. So I get into real estate. And then 6 years into it, I'm losing moments of my time. I'm running around like crazy for clients, missing moments of my life, and I'm not seeing my bride. And I was blessed. 13 years ago, after running around like crazy, someone sat down with me. It was actually a room of 200 people, but I felt like they were talking to me. And they gave me a path to working with buyers specifically, because in real estate, we lose so much of our time working with buyers. And what I realized in real estate especially is that we love celebrating the transaction. We love celebrating getting deals done. We actually have award ceremonies to talk about how many deals we did and how many people we helped, but we don't really talk ever about the time that it takes to get there. That's strange to me, because I literally got into real estate because I wanted my time back. People get into real estate because they want to get their time back and have their time.
Well, that must have been a very powerful moment for you, being in that room and realizing or thinking someone was talking to you.
Yeah.
I've seen that transcendence because I've been in rooms when you were speaking,
Man.
and I can feel that people feel that connection with you.
Yeah.
I mean, they feel as though you're talking to them.
Yeah.
So, and that's a great quality to have.
I appreciate that. It actually wasn't until like 2 years ago did I realize that I could make an impact on showing agents. And what I realized is 13 years ago, when I started taking the process of my time seriously, when I started tracking the moments, especially, I decided 13 years ago, my path in real estate to help the people that I wanted to help in the way I wanted to help was really only helping buyers. People thought I was crazy. People thought it was insane to focus your real estate career on only buyers, but that's what I wanted to do.
Well, of course, back then the mantra was, to my
Listings last.
recollections, if you own the listing agent, you own the property, you own the market.
Yeah, and that's what most people would say to me, but I just decided that I wanted to help buyers because that's what brought me a bolt of energy, the excitement of telling somebody that they got the house. Being with them during those huge moments of their life was so big to me, and the listing and selling of a house was not that emotional thing that connected me and drove me to success. So I just decided I want to help buyers. Here's the problem. You cannot help buyers in a way where you love your life and enjoy your life if you don't have a process. And 13 years ago, I learned that by sitting down with that buyer and doing an initial consultation, I could set a win-win scenario where the buyer was getting the experience that Adam and Jackie didn't get. We can get the experience where we believe that we have someone guiding us. And then when we do it in the right way as agents, we create the scenario where we love our life and the buyers leave the settlement truly believing in the person that guided them, being cheerleaders for them. So what the best part about this was 13 years ago, I committed to taking the consultation process seriously. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to interject one thing.
I got a lot of energy. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. No, and I'm happy just to let you talk.
Yeah.
Look, I'm learning too. I love hearing you. But one thing struck and resonated with me a little bit is I listened to a mortgage coach years ago. His name was Todd Duncan.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's still in the business. I'm talking probably 25 years ago. And one of the things that he said during that process or during that conversation was that if, as a business person, if you don't have a process for everything, then everything becomes its own process.
That's right.
Right? And it sounds like you've solved that. So
especially with buyers, because if you don't have a process with buyers, they can take you off the rails in what they think is the path that's the right path to guide them. I think I told you earlier, I actually look at helping people buy homes in the last 5 years as maybe the most difficult thing people can do in their lives.
Without a doubt.
And I compared that to, I think I said, climbing Mount Everest. And if you think about it, in the last 2 decades, people have been buying homes with real estate agents, climbing Mount Everest with someone that's guiding them all the way up the mountain. But at the end of the day, they're not actually remembering the person to the point where they're not going back to them and they're not referring them. And so it's ironic that by doing a consultation with the buyer and setting the stage with them and showing them what the climb up Mount Everest looks like, it actually set the stage where the buyer starts this process and they feel confident and comfortable in the person that's helping them. And at the end of the day, you as the agent actually get your life back. What's crazy is 2 years ago, my passion shifted from helping buyers to now helping agents realize that they don't have to be afraid of the changes in real estate. They don't have to be afraid of the fact that they were never a door opener to begin with. I look at it like this. In the last 20 years, buyers have been asking to see the house, and we've been acting as door openers, meeting them at the first house because we believe that's the path to helping them buy a house. And all of these people have been meeting you to buy a house and going through the experience, and they never actually looked at you as a guide, and they never actually felt like you did anything other than a transaction for them. What I've been showing agents now is when you set the expectations in that consultation, the end of the movie for us all is that the buyer will look at you as a guide. They will trust you and believe in you in the most expensive thing they ever bought in their entire life. And what it means for the buyer is that they actually can go through one of the huge moments of their entire lives. They remember the moments. They remember climbing Mount Everest. They should remember the guide who's actually taking them through it. So the buyer gets a great experience. And what I'm really excited for agents, and there's a reason why I'm passionate about helping agents, is that I truly believe when they get out of their fear and start sitting down with buyers and having a plan, showing their confidence and how skilled they are at being a representative, and they start tracking the time that they're spending. What happens is we help these buyers buy homes. Like 13 years ago, I was finding agents that were helping as many buyers as possible. And then I realized that those agents don't love their life just because they help 50 or 60 buyers buy a house.
Well, nor do the buyers.
No, that's what's crazy.
At some point, they start to feel as though they're in a transactional relationship and not a life journey. And it should be a life journey. They should enjoy it as much as, that's a great analogy, climbing Mount Everest, is there are milestones.
Yes.
You start at base camp, you get a great foundation, you get a little bit of education, you go to the next step, and you go to the next step. Scaling the mountain isn't just leave from base camp and
straight up
to the mountain
we
go, right?
No. In fact, how about what is the most difficult part of buying a house? What is probably the most stressful part of buying a house for a buyer? The financing, maybe?
Yeah, well, I would say.
Yeah, maybe the financing?
Well, it's different, but for first-time home buyers, I think there's just so many that don't know where to start.
That's true. And they're usually starting online and looking at a house. But I look at the financing part as like the scariest part of Mount Everest. And when a buyer goes to Mount Everest and they start climbing and they hit the scariest part, most people will fall if they don't have a plan. But when an agent could sit down with a buyer and say, by the way, your financing might be the scariest part of the climb you're about to make, so let me show you what to expect. Let me give you the crystal ball. Let me show you how to plan ahead of time. Let me show you how to be prepared. Let me introduce you to the co-author who's helping you climb the mountain. And when you get to that part of the mountain, do you think the buyer's turning around and saying, hey, remember you said this? And now the climb for the buyer is easier. What's crazy is, as agents for decades, we've been thinking the path that the buyer wants, which is meeting us at the house, is the best case for everybody. So we meet them at the house because we get a transaction done, and we get celebrated at our award ceremonies for 50 transactions from 50 buyers who are going to go buy a home in 7 years and use somebody totally different. And the crazy part is, if you sat down with that buyer in the beginning of their climb, they would never get to the top of the mountain and not insist on you being in the picture at the top of the mountain. And especially if their friends are going to climb Mount Everest, they're going to make sure you're the guide helping them if they're going to climb Mount Everest again. So what I'm so like, man, you know, the energy I have about this is the fact that I've lived this life for the last over a decade in the most probably time-consuming part of the business, the buying side. And I believe that I can make listing agents jealous, most importantly, about the time that I spend. Because I track, if I sit down with a buyer and I help them buy a house, I can tell you exactly how much time that I have spent. And when we can do that as agents, guess what time we're saving also? Our clients' time. So they sit at the table and they're excited about buying the most expensive thing they ever bought in their life. And they're looking at the guide that helped them. And they care most about their most important asset, which is the time that you save them. And you as an agent, because your most important asset is your time, are also in love with it. And so
I always say that's one of the things that, you know, of all the things that Jeff Bezos has accomplished, I often say that one of his greatest contributions to society is he gave people back so much time.
Oh my God.
The amount of
think
time,
about that.
The reimbursement of time that he's made to the consumer is phenomenal. And another thing about time too, and I hear this a lot, when someone reaches out, whether they're referred by a realtor or whether they found me through some other channel, and they're like, I'm thinking about buying a house in a year or two. I just want to see what the process looks like, what I can get pre-approved for.
Yeah.
And once you go through that pre-approval process and you remove the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And I often say to the referral source, well, they're approved for this amount. And I wouldn't really look at it as business a year from now, because most of the time, once a buyer gets pre-approved, they start looking.
Yeah.
Once they know what their capacity is, then they start looking. Almost 100% of the time, someone that says, I want to buy a house in a year, once they get pre-approved, 3 months they're at the settlement table.
It's crazy because what you're proving right now is how that when you sit down with a buyer in consultation. So when I sit with a buyer in consultation, is it a win if my buyer works with the person that I know and trust is going to provide them the best experience when it comes to financing? I would say, yeah, it's a win for me and a win for the buyer, because rather than the buyer flailing and not knowing anything about what they're doing and relying on online sources or someone who bought a home 20 years ago, when you sit down with a buyer in consultation and say, you can trust me, but let me also introduce you to my team of superheroes that are also going to be there guiding you up the mountain. And everything you just said is all about how when you sit down with the consumer and actually guide them, you're going to provide them the answers in financing that are going to get them the answers to do it now or in the future. And as agents, we go through this experience and we settle on the house and we don't realize how they got there or the people that got them there.
Well, and it's amazing too that younger agents don't take advantage of that consultation with the lender and the buyer, because look, if you're a newer agent, things have changed so much in the business that's a learning process. You can learn so much by being on that initial call. Forget about the fact that it gets us all on the same page and we have a roadmap to success. All the Sherpas know where they're supposed to be.
That's exactly right.
Right. And some agents just don't understand that, you have your process, we have our process. Sometimes it's best to join those processes, right?
Yeah.
To give the buyer the best buying experience that we can provide for them.
Yeah. And what's crazy about this is the win-win of it creates a buyer who actually remembers you, isn't sitting here 7 years after buying a house and sitting with another agent. And that other agent says, oh, who helped you buy your house? I've been with so many buyers where they can't remember the name of the person that guided them up Mount Everest. And so we think, Maya Angelou said it best, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And the problem is, as real estate professionals, we're in this horrible climb up the mountain, dragging a buyer through the process, getting to the top, so proud of ourselves that we actually got a settlement, that in 2 instances we're failing. One, the buyer doesn't remember you. And the other one is the family that's at home, that's missing you, is remembering the moments that you missed, is remembering the phone calls you took, is remembering the hours of time, even on vacation, that you stepped away from. And you're celebrating the settlement and you're forgetting your most important asset was wasted during that settlement. And so I'm just trying to get a message out to agents that, especially with home buyers, especially with buyers, because if we can get our time back working with buyers, everything else is easier. And if we actually sat down at the settlement table, looked at our profit and loss statements, and didn't just calculate the marketing dollar or the gas money, but we actually said how much time was on it. So we put time on our P&L, we can actually judge whether we're succeeding or failing. And I can tell you that working with buyers, there's a big difference if you help a buyer buy a house and you spend 5 to 10 hours than if you spend 40 or 50 hours of your time. It matters to you, right? It matters to your family. It matters to the people that want you around. And then ironically, it actually mattered to the buyer, because the 50 hours you spent with them where you think you were saying the right things and doing the right things, most of the time they feel like they weren't guided. They feel like someone wasn't actually taking them up the mountain in the best possible way. So we get to the top of the mountain at the settlement table and we're taking pictures and we're taking all these pictures of our clients. They're not happy enough to refer us or come back to us, or most importantly, become cheerleaders for us, because as real estate agents, we really want to build cheerleaders, people that leave the settlement and have to tell people about it. And instead, we're leaving the settlements thinking, well, they must love us. And we're going home with a check and forgetting we didn't actually succeed in that settlement. And man, I'm just excited to get out and share that.
Yeah. Well, I think as professionals, we take for granted what we know.
Yeah.
And other people don't know what we do. If you have a first time home buyer and whatever their profession is, and like, I have a silly question. Well, it's not a silly question, because I've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
So, and you haven't. I couldn't come to your place of work and do your job.
Yeah.
So it's not a silly question. It's just part of the process.
You know what's funny?
And a lot of times those first-time homebuyers, you talk about 50 hours. Sometimes it's 150 hours.
Yeah, I just underestimated it, right? What's funny is that, all right, in our business, we've been told as agents, since I started my career, that 75% of buyers will do a transaction with you if you meet them at the first house. So we've been driven as real estate agents to forego all of the actual professionalism of our business to meeting people and becoming a door opener because the transaction became the most important thing. The problem was that when we actually met the buyer at the house, we didn't actually build trust. We never set expectations. We never actually got commitments from them. We never actually created win-win scenarios. We never actually did the work we needed to do, become the Sherpa. And so we actually take them through this entire process of buying a house, thinking that we were doing the right thing. In reality, what's happened is the buyer wanted to see the house. We met them, and it's led to literally the buyer with unrealistic expectations, a buyer who's writing 1 million offers because they don't know what a good offer looks like yet. It's a buyer who doesn't trust the person because all they did was meet them at the house. And so we blame the buyer because we go, well, they just wanted to meet me at a house. But what you're saying is, as professionals, we're supposed to be guiding them. We're supposed to be saying, and we always should have been saying, you know what? Meeting me at 123 Main Street may not be in your best interest. Let me show you as the professional why we should do a consultation so you actually understand it. So what has happened?
So the implied feeling here is that you are in favor of the NAR settlement, so to speak,
God, dreaming for this.
and buyer's agency contracts. You think that puts the conversation where it needs to be for the betterment of the buyer.
It's where it always should have been. We have sellers that meet with listing agents, find the best professional by interviewing multiple listing agents so they hire the right person to sell their house. And buyers are competing with those listing agents when they're going to buy those homes with no guide. And they've been doing that for decades. And so, yeah, for the better part of my career, I've been dreaming of the moment where the buyer, it's not in their best interest. It's never been in the buyer's best interest to meet a random stranger at a random vacant empty home when they're buying the most expensive thing in their life. They've always deserved the right to have a professional guide them through what they're about to go through, in the same way that a seller has a listing agent typically guide them through what it looks like to sell their house. And unfortunately, the pressures of Zillow, the pressures of the environment tell the buyer, forget all of that because you got to go see the house. And so why am I excited about this? Because now the buyer is going to be centered around what they should have been focused on. Because we don't always do what's in our best interest. Mm-hmm. But professionals are supposed to be saying to us, hey, this isn't in your best interest, even though you might think it is. And so now I've been dreaming. I've been telling people for years, I've been dreaming of the moment where the buyer can't just go see 123 Main Street, that they actually need to take the time to respect the moment and respect the experience and meet with a professional who's going to be their guide, because they wouldn't just show up at Mount Everest and start climbing the mountain with whoever they met. And so the win-win of this change has me more than excited to share my experiences, because the last decade will show all of these agents that their life can be exciting. Their life, you can love working with buyers. I think real estate agents get into real estate using the word real estate as an end-all be-all to everything. Meaning, I got into real estate, well, I must help sellers, I must help buyers, I must help investors, I must be everything to everybody. But you can find a path in real estate where you can focus on one area that you passionately love and be great at it and only do one thing. So for me, it was literally only help buyers.
That had to be scary.
Very scary.
At the moment you decided,
yeah,
I'm licensed to sell real estate, two parties involved, buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
I'm going to disengage from 50% of my market share potentially and focus on this market share so I can do a better job and grow a better business.
Well, not fully disengage. What I believe in is that we should be specialists in some way, shape, or form. And so I believe that if a person comes to me to want to buy a house, I believe that I'm the specialist that's going to help them buy the house. And when you want to sell your house, man, am I not partnered with the right people to actually sell your house? So no, I don't push off people who are selling their homes.
No, I didn't mean it.
People think that. People actually think that I do that.
You.
People think that I literally go, wait, you didn't help anybody sell a house? No, what I believed in is, Let the salespeople who list and sell homes be great at selling homes. I believe that I'm great at advocacy and representation and not sales. So I'm going to focus on, for those people, my thing. Yeah.
Well, and again, that's tough because as salespeople, we all have a certain amount of ego involved, right? And it's one of the toughest things to do is to understand what you do best, do it, and delegate the rest.
That's right.
So many of us in sales are horrible delegators.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And the thing is this, I look at it this way. If we can't look the consumer in the eye and say, we are the absolute best person on earth to do the job that you're asking us to do for you, if there's no one else that I could find that's better than this than me, then yeah, you should hire me. I just never felt like I was the best person for them to hire to sell anything, right? To sell their house, to sell anything. In fact, you go from the restaurant business to real estate and you're driven by what's supposed to be sales when you don't love sales. And then you realize helping buyers isn't sales. Helping buyers has never been sales, and no buyer ever wanted someone to help them buy a house by selling them something. So I found my lane where I could actually be an advocate and a representative and provide service and let the salespeople do sales. And so I don't think in real estate we do that, but I realized in real estate, when you actually do what you love to do, you wake up every morning actually driven by something that you love to do and you find that you're passionate about it.
So that buyer advocacy piece must be kind of tough too, because, you know, in the day and age where the internet drives so much information, consumers in almost every case will educate themselves online, right? They like that little bit of anonymity that they can look, they can investigate, they can see what's available in the marketplace, how they might fit in the neighborhood, all the data that you can get online. And you know, someone likened years ago to me, that process to me is saying, you know, when you go shopping for something and the salesperson comes over and says, "May I help you?" Almost immediately you say, "No, thank you, I'm just looking," right? Until you found, you know, the car caught your eye or the suit caught your eye. Then you might go find the salesperson to get a little more information to help you make that buying decision. So now with the amount of information available online, it appears to me that consumers are, I want this house.
Yeah.
I want to see it today.
Fastest possible.
I want to close in as soon as I can.
Yep.
And I want a home inspection.
Yeah.
So how do you derail that conversation when the buyer identifies what they want?
Yep.
How do you say, okay, look, I have a process. Slow down for a second because I want it to be meaningful for you and your family.
Yeah. It starts by asking all the great questions coming from curiosity, because each person has an experience that they've been through that drives them in their decision making. And so getting an understanding of why they want to do it in this way, because in most instances, the way they want to do it, especially with home buyers, they find out at the worst time that it wasn't the right way to do it. And so all of these home buyers who have wanted to go see 123 Main Street in the same way that you're talking about, for the rapidness of the excitement of chasing the squirrel, at some point when they're actually in that experience, start to realize that they made a mistake. And so I think by asking early questions about making sure, hey, do you want to make sure you're avoiding mistakes? Do you want to avoid losing properties because you weren't prepared or organized? Or are you focused on being organized and prepared and being there at the right moment? So I think another thing about this is we think as agents that everybody's ready right now. And we don't focus on the fact that maybe they're not ready right now. Maybe it's on the back burner, but we want to make sure that when they're ready and they move it to the front burner, I think my grandmom used to say, is moving from the back burner to the front burner, that when they do that in their moment, that they take the moment to interview us. And right now, I think that's the only thing we need to do in slowing them down, by asking the right questions so that they see the benefit and realize that they could lose time and pain and they could have things that they don't want to have happen. And when they realize they don't want those things to happen, our focus shouldn't be getting them to hire us. Our focus has always been get the job interview. So what I'm teaching agents is when you're talking to these people that are really excited about going to see the house, you have to ask all the right questions to get to know them, to set yourself up where you're going to get a job interview. And so we're not getting them to hire us. We're not telling them what to do, and we're not telling them when they don't trust us yet. Because when you do the right job interview and you actually properly prepare and practice your consultation, you're going to build the trust in that session that's going to set the stage where now you're going to be the Sherpa that we're talking about. The people you're talking about are going to the bottom of the mountain, excited about climbing it, starting the climb with whoever they find because they think that's what we want to do. I want to go climb Mount Everest. It's when they get on the mountain that they realize the mistake. Agents need to ask the right questions about how much do you know about climbing Mount Everest? How much do you know about financing or what can happen when you're not ready? How much do you know about the current market? And when they start to realize they don't know as much as they think and they're afraid of making those mistakes, we get a job interview. We don't get them to hire us. We get them to give us a job interview. And when you properly prepare and practice your job interview and you sit down with these buyers and you have a plan to set expectations, to build trust, to get commitment, to create win-win scenarios, to get to know our people, they leave that job interview actually following you up Mount Everest. And so,
well, look, when you're buying the largest single asset that most people will ever own in their life, with the probability of building generational wealth, you want a professional involved.
You need it.
You need a professional involved. And the thing that I think buyers overlook sometimes is they see the buyer's agency agreement as a way for you to hook them in.
That's right.
And they have to, and now they're your client. That document protects the buyer as much as anyone, maybe more than anyone.
Oh, man, I love going into this. So here's the thing. We have to realize that the consumer hasn't taken real estate experience schools. They haven't had any real estate experience. They've heard the word contract, and they believe the word contract is a binding thing that's scary to use. Buyer, a listing contract, buyer agency contract, an agreement of sale. These are scary things. And what happens is we sit down with a seller as real estate professionals and we tell them, we want you to hire us. In fact, most important thing about getting you to hire me is that you trust me. If you trust me, you're going to hire me to sell your property, and we have no problem asking the seller to commit to us in a contract. And ironically, in Pennsylvania specifically, that contract is literally binding for sellers most of the time. It's not easy to get out of a listing contract. But when you put a buyer agency contract in front of a buyer without explaining to them, without most importantly building trust with them, showing yourself to be their guide, they think you're putting a contract in front of them that is getting you hooked into you.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And in reality, there's not a single buyer agency contract that exists where the buyer, if they don't feel comfortable with the person that they've hired prior to getting under contract on a home, that they don't have the power and privilege to walk away from that agent. So as buyer agents, sitting down and building trust, even getting a buyer agency contract is the smallest portion of my job. In fact, sitting down with people and having them hire me in writing is literally the least most important part of that meeting. Because we think as agents, oh, they've hired me. They must be willing to follow me. They must be willing to guide me. So we sit down in a meeting. Sometimes we take 10 minutes. We get their criteria and they sign up with us. But that buyer is not going to go through that climb up Mount Everest knowing what they're doing or how they're going to do it. Whereas I'll sit down with a buyer, be really detailed, really involved, prepared and practiced so that at the end of it, it's not just getting them to hire me. I need them to follow me up the mountain so that at the end of that settlement, at the end of the climb, like we matter. Buyer agents matter, like their time matters. And too often we've been treating buyer agents as the door opener that goes meet the buyer at the house. And it hasn't created a life for the agents or the buyers themselves. And we just talked to, your guy that bought a house, talked about how the agent ran around for them, talked about how the agent talked to them. And we talked about all the work they did. And then we thought, well, would you use them again? I don't know. And it wasn't about the work they did or things they said. It's the fact that he didn't feel guided. We think these people that we're sending magnets for the Phillies, we talked about baseball, right? We send Phillies magnets and Eagles magnets and sports magnets to our clients. And we just assume they're going to come back to us.
Yeah, that didn't build your trust.
No.
That didn't build your business.
No, it didn't. Yeah. I think it was a lot, man.
It's a lot of information.
This is why Just Breathe is my favorite song, because I need to just breathe sometimes and slow down. I don't need a pump me up song.
Well, it's important, and we kind of started the year in this podcast sessions to talk about things that would empower people for the spring market, right?
Yeah.
And we're in it.
Yeah, we are.
We're in the spring market.
Yeah.
It comes a little bit later in the Northeast for weather and things like that, but we're in it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of information is exactly what buyers and realtors need to hear so that we all get through it.
Let's talk about buyers. So if you're a buyer right now thinking about buying a home, you should be thinking that you're about to try to climb Mount Everest. This is not just some easy slope that you're going to climb that you can do on your own. That you do need a guide. You do need a Sherpa. And starting the process by thinking that you're going to waste their time, so you're going to go online and look for homes, is not putting you in the best position as the consumer if you care about the experience you're going to have buying the house. So if you're buying a home right now, you're about to climb Mount Everest, and you're going to be competing with the buyers that do have Sherpas that are guiding them. So
let's just pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Because that's important in the context of, particularly if you're first-time home buyers, it's important in the context of you have to find the property.
Yeah.
You have to be qualified to buy the property with a lender.
Yep.
And then a true real estate professional, their job is to put you in the best scenario to win the bid.
Yes.
Right? So just meeting someone at the door is far from any of that.
No.
Right? So particularly now when there are multiple offers, over price with escalation clauses. I know buyers that have made 4, 5, 6, 8 offers to no avail.
Yep.
It's a process.
Yep.
Right? It's a process. And without the proper leadership, you will waste a lot of time and you will never get the house that you really want because you're not prepared.
Yeah, we circle this back too, because the buyer experience in that, no buyer ever wants to write 8 offers before they get the house. They're not sitting at celebrating just the house they bought. They're also lamenting the 8 houses they didn't get at settlement. And so we have to actually be thinking about, if we circle back to the time that we're spending. 13 years ago, I started tracking every showing that I would do for every buyer. Every offer that I wrote for a buyer would be tracked. Why? Because I knew that with buyers, especially, and if time was my most important asset, and if my buyer's time was their most important asset, and if it was what was going to drive them to refer me or come back to me, it wasn't just what I was doing, it was how they feel. Well, most people, all personality types, don't like wasting time. So if we as agents actually spent our time focusing and tracking the time that we spend, we're going to find ourselves in a much better position. So 13 years ago, I started tracking how many homes am I showing per buyer. Well, after 13 years and doing consultations and doing all the work that I share with agents on how to do it, I'm showing 4.5 homes per buyer before I get under contract on average. Well, other agents are showing 25 or 30 homes. You think about the 20 hours of your life that you're missing that you could get back. You would be excited about the NAR settlement. You would be thrilled at the NAR settlement because you would realize that those 20 hours can be gotten back with simply sitting down. And guess what? You're giving the buyer their time back. And so when we talk about how the client feels, we keep celebrating the settlements and not realizing that the buyer actually didn't love it.
So these are all questions that a home buyer should be asking when they have that conversation the first time with any realtor.
Yeah.
Questions like you brought up a real specific piece of data. On average, how many homes do you show a buyer before they buy or before the offer gets accepted? I mean, that's an important piece of data.
It's actually
that drills down to, that speaks to your professionalism.
Here's how I think about it.
Or any realtor's professionalism.
The home buyer has literally been, the way I love analogies. Home buyers over time, if you imagine being sued for, let's say average home buyers buying a $500,000 house. Imagine being sued for $500,000 and showing up at court one day and knowing the prosecutor has been hired, interviewed, is the best prosecutor for them, or the person that's actually suing you has hired somebody that's the best in the world, and you showed up in court and you're going to find a random stranger that you found online to represent you in that lawsuit. You would never do that. You would hire an attorney, you would find the person to represent you. And so the consumer just simply needs to understand that you're going to be competing right now with people who have found and interviewed the right agent. Who's winning right now are the buyers that actually have the right guide. Just like the people that win in court hired the right attorney instead of just meeting random stranger and wondering, why did I lose the lawsuit? No, you actually need to find and hire the right person to be in your best interest.
So you're saying it's like the old adage of attorneys?
Yeah.
If you have chosen to represent yourself, you have a fool for a client?
Yep. And if you've chosen to meet a random stranger, you're going to get hit with whatever experience they have that you know nothing about. And so I'm excited. Like, everybody wonders, Adam, you shifted 2 years ago to now helping buyers, to getting around and passionately talking about this. I literally feel like I've seen the end of the movie, where a lot of people are nervous throughout the movie. They don't know if it's going to be a good ending. And I know the ending of all of what's happening in the real estate world with buyers specifically are going to be buyers that are buying homes more educated, more knowledgeable, more trusting. If I can't say the word trust more often, but buyers need someone they can trust to buy a home, guiding them. And so we're going to have buyers that are way more knowledgeable, way more prepared, way more organized. And we're going to have professional agents guiding them. And if they do it the right way, they're going to have families at home that are going to see them on vacation. I can't imagine all the times as agents we get up from our dinner tables and we walk away and say just 1 minute. Or we go on vacations. And I talk to agents, when you go on vacation, how much time are you spending on the phone, doing a deal, negotiating, or I just have to write an offer? Each of these moments, if I circle back to my life, is not why I got in this business. I got in this business because I lost my mom and didn't want to miss those moments. And I don't think agents are recognizing, especially on the buying side, we're celebrating transactions and deals, and we're not realizing that we're missing the moments of our life that aren't guaranteed.
Well, and hey, look, that's one of the huge benefits for us to be in this business, a loan officer or a realtor, or yes, we work an insane number of hours and we work days that a lot of people don't work.
Yeah.
But it also allows us to carve out time for
That's right.
important things.
When you do it the right way.
Friends. Yes, absolutely.
Man, and I think the agents that I learn from, the people that I learn from are the people that are successful, and it isn't driven by the number of transactions they've done. It's driven by how they get their business. If they're doing open houses twice a weekend and fighting for every opportunity, and they've been in business 20 years, there's something to be said about the fact that they are not getting repeat and referral business. There's something to be said and go, we should be following the people based on how they're getting their business, not how much they're doing. If you're getting your business from repeat and referral business, there's something you're doing right and giving the buyer an experience. And as real estate agents, we can create cheerleaders.
Right.
If you think about it, this is not a small moment. They're not buying a pack of gum at a convenience store. They're literally never going, I don't care what personality you are. I don't care. It doesn't matter what type of person you are, where you wake up in the morning, where you go to bed at night, where you live your life matters to you. And we're literally guiding people into those moments where they're going to be living in places, and somehow, some way, those people are remembering buying the house. They're remembering the settlement day. They're remembering the move. They're remembering everything that happened in it, but they're forgetting the person. And that agent that's doing that is doing 2 open houses every weekend.
Well, even the buyers to some degree, they don't think that far ahead. You know? And sometimes, I say to buyers, like, this is not just a transaction. You win the bid, you go to closing, you've won the transaction. This is where you're going to spend the majority of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to raise your family. You're going to build memories. You're going to set an example for your children to follow. It is a generational move, right?
I've been telling people all over that the mortgage person that you're working with has to be the co-author of the experience you buyers have. Because if your buyers are buying a home, one of the most stressful parts, if not the most stressful part of buying a home, is especially getting approved. But not only that, when you're under contract, the process of going from contract to the settlement can make or break the experience. So you're on the mountain, you're climbing the mountain, you're at the most, I think on Mount Everest, they like the death zone, right? Like the most stressful moment of it. You need to know that the person that's on the mountain guiding them through that. I don't know a lot about mortgages. In fact, I know less about mortgages than people imagine because I love making sure that the people get the information from the mortgage person. And so as real estate professionals, we need to build our team that starts with a co-author that when a buyer says, hey, what do I do about financing? Hey, I have somebody for you that's the co-author, another Sherpa that's going to guide you. And what you're discussing is the right type of person that these people need to be looking for. The person that's not just trying to get you approved, but also trying to find out what your comfort zone is.
Right. You got to find
all of those things.
You have to find the comfort zone. And the other thing too is I have the benefit personally of perspective. I have 5 grown children. And so I have the benefit of being able to say, and as corny as it sounds, I talk to a lot of first-time home buyers, and they ask me particularly about product and pricing because interest rates have been a wee bit volatile. And they ask me my recommendation. And I say, look, I'm going to tell you what I would tell you if you were my kid. If you were one of my children and you were in this transaction, I'm going to tell you what my opinion is based on the same advice I would give to them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all you can do. I mean, if you have that kind of perspective, I've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I have 5 grown kids. If you have that kind of historical perspective and you don't share it, that's senseless to me.
I think what happens though is if you share that with somebody before they trust you, let's say they think you're just manipulating them. Like when we sit down with someone who we think is going to try and sell us something in real estate, a lot of the consumers believe that the real estate agent is there to manipulate us into a transaction. It's unfortunate, but a lot of times the consumer will look as a real estate agent as someone who's just trying to get a deal done. And our focus as real estate agents, because the mass majority of us, and not the most of the agents that I know, don't want to be manipulators. They want to be people that are positively influencing people during great important moments of their life. And so what you're talking about is telling somebody something that is going to be a positive influence on them. The first thing that has to happen though is they have to trust us. That person you're saying, hey, look, I've been through this as a first-time home buyer. Let me share with you my experiences. When they look at you as a manipulator when you're doing that, they're not going to listen to you. But when they actually see you as someone who cares about them, that they can trust is actually looking out for them, which happens in consultation. Mm-hmm. All of that is built in that consultation so that when they sit with you, it's not you doing it for your benefit. It's you doing it for their benefit, and everything from the rest of the process, climbing that mountain, isn't just trying to get you up the mountain. It's actually they're looking at you and saying, I can trust Gary because not only is he giving me great advice, but I believe him. And so when he tells me about his experiences and why he's looking at me to tell me to do it this way, meaning we have to make an aggressive offer or we have to back out or we have to do something, it's because they're looking out for me. And we don't build trust. Like, I don't know if I've ever built trust with somebody I've met for 15 minutes. And so we're meeting people at homes. We have been, and we're expecting them because we're telling great stories. We're telling great things in these meetings at these houses that should impact them in a way to trust us. They don't know us. They don't trust us. And so the consumer needs to actually trust the people that they're guiding. You can make huge mistakes if you have the wrong agent. If you're actually buying a home right now with the wrong agent, you may have no idea why you're losing house after house after house. You just know, well, the market means the market must say that we have to write 5 offers because that's what everybody's been telling me. You don't realize that you just have the wrong person. Or you're in the mortgage part and you go, well, mortgage parts are difficult. That's why this has been a struggle. No, you don't know. As professionals, we need to slow the process down so that they do know what their mistakes are. And so they do trust us. And if they trust us, they're going to listen to you talk about their financing because you are looking out for them. And they're going to look at their agent, their guide, as someone who's looking out for them. And they're going to sit at the settlement table believing you and remembering you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and a market like this too. Well, the other thing too, and you hit on something else that I think is important, is that experience and guiding them through that process. And when a buyer decides, this is how much I want to offer for it.
Yeah.
And I heard someone say this a few weeks ago, actually several months ago, and I thought that's a really great way to look at things. But as a realtor, I'm looking for your opinion on this.
Yeah.
They said they asked the buyer, that's great. You decided on $450 as your purchase price.
Yep.
Would you be sad if it sold for $455?
Actually, I go $1. So what I'll say to the buyer is, how will you feel? We circle back to this. The only thing that matters is how the buyer is going to feel at the end of this experience. So when a buyer draws a line in the sand on price, and there's a comfort zone around that price, the number one question is, how are you going to feel if it sells for $1 more than that? Because I need them to believe in and understand that if it sells for $1 more, then they're okay with it. We're going to move on. It wasn't the right property for them. So I don't know about $5,000 more. I want to know if it was $1 more, would you feel okay with it? Because at the end of the day, the buyer needs to know all their options. They need to know what their comfort zones are, and they need to know that there's a chance they could lose it, and that's okay. That they have to be okay with losing it because the price does matter.
Right.
And so what happens as agents, we try to get them to go higher in price. Well, are you trying to get them to go higher in price because you're going to get a deal done? Because if they're okay if it's sold for $1 more, then we're going to move. We have to be able to move on so they feel great.
Correct. Yeah.
So $1 more, because what'll happen is you'll sit down with the buyer and they'll be like, well, if it's sold for that much more, you know what? I might be more comfortable going higher. And you have to hit the line where it's a true line in the sand. What you can't have happen is the $450 house, you find out it sold for $451 because one buyer wrote an offer that was escalating to $451. And you tell the buyer and they go, well, we'll do more. You don't have that opportunity as the consumer. And many times the consumer doesn't know they don't have that opportunity. But if you say to them, if it's sold for $450 and $1 or $451, are you going to be okay with it? If it sells for that $451 or more, you're still the Sherpa guiding them. They still believe in you and they're okay. And we can move on.
So we've,
there's a lot.
We've covered a lot, but you know what? Necessarily so. So I believe what we've really discussed for consumers is who you work with matters, because people will do business or should do business with people they know, people they like, people that they trust. So take the time to reach a comfort level with your Sherpa, so to speak, and then begin your process, and it will end well. But you have a lot of hats. So, you do this.
Yeah.
And you coach and teach other real estate agents as well. You have a huge training program that I've heard great things about. And I want to give you some time to expound on that, or expand a little bit. So I know that you are an active real estate agent.
Yes.
I know that you're involved in a team.
Yep.
And I know that you do coaching, teaching, and training.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your coaching, teaching, training, how you execute that, and how do people find you to get involved with that? Because you're obviously a wealth of information that could benefit benefit a lot of agents. And this is, it's a life learning profession. Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I left an event and heard Ed Milet. I had the chance of hearing Ed Milet give a keynote speech at an event. And he talked about impacting lives. And up until about 2 years ago, the bolt of energy that I got in my life that kept me going was telling a buyer they got the house. And I still love doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's like the greatest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But I realized was that I wanted to get home and start showing agents that there was a path that you could actually enjoy your life, love your life with buyers. That if I specialized in buyers, that I wanted to be able to share with agents. There's enough training on listings. There's enough training on how to get more listings. There's certainly enough training on how to do more sales, but how to actually work with buyers in a way where you can thrive and love your life. And so just started teaching a class. That 1 hour class over 2 years has now evolved into a 3-hour workshop that has been approved for continuing ed for the state of Pennsylvania, which I'm really proud about. But more importantly, I've been able to get across the country. Like, buyer agency is not something people are talking about, ironically. And the changes that are happening across the country have afforded me an amazing opportunity to share my message in person and virtually across the country. And so I have built a coaching program for specifically buyer agency. And most importantly, anybody who's thinking about working with buyers, anybody who owns a team that has buyer agents, my goal is that we can find a way to get agents to learn how to work with buyers in a way that will actually create a win-win for everybody. Where you're going to do more transactions and focus on your time, and you're going to love your life doing it. So I built a coaching program that people can easily find. Really, it's as easy as finding me on Instagram at Adam Boxman. And I also do workshops and speaking to groups of people talking about the mindset of buyer agency and how we can get our life back and how I've been able to do that and share my experiences. But easy enough, finding me on Instagram at Adam Boxman. It might be the easiest person in the world to find. If you're an agent that you just want to learn how to work with buyers better,
or
because
just
you love
go
it.
to any coffee shop in Doylestown and listen for the guy talking about.
You're going to hear me at some point. It's just buyer agency. It matters, but also our time matters. And too often, people that love working with buyers are celebrating the transaction but losing their time. And I'm grateful. Like, I never thought that I'd teach a class of 10 people, and 2 years later, I'd be in front of hundreds of people and be given the opportunity to share my message and make an impact on more people. And if I can help one agent that can help 30 buyers, and I can help 10 agents, now I'm helping more people. And most importantly, I'm helping the buyers get the experience that Adam and Jackie Boxman didn't have. We did not have a memorable experience that would have us referring that agent. And as buyers, we regret not having that experience. So I want to be able to show that the buyer, if they focus on the experience mattering, then they're going to get it. And they're going to have a much better process of buying the most expensive thing they ever bought. But more importantly for agents also, that we can do this in a way where we love our life, that we're not stressed, that we actually can be excited that we're going to be professionals, that we are not door openers. And yeah, easy to find. You know what else? I love sharing free stuff.
So you also joined a team recently.
Yes. Right? Well, yeah. So part of me getting around and coaching and training has to make sure that the people that are coming to me to buy or sell houses get that experience And my time, like as I'm coaching and training, I have to make sure that if someone comes to me that they're getting the experience. And I just happen to be grateful that the team that I joined, my partners are that what I call the house, the mansion.
I'm going to drop a bomb on you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ready? So when I saw that you joined the team that you joined,
yes,
I went, man, what a great fit.
Yeah.
I've known Vince.
Oh, man.
From before he got into real estate. Great guy.
Some of my favorite people in real estate.
When I saw that, I'm like, wow, what an excellent move for everyone involved. I'm not going to tell you how I met Vince, but I will tell you this.
Yeah.
Don't play poker with him.
I'm going to learn now. I tried playing. I play golf with him.
It was before he got into real estate. Yeah. So yeah, take a couple of cigars and don't play poker with him.
So I looked at it this way. I look at my clients as my babies. They're my family. And as I'm getting out and teaching agents and helping agents, I have to make sure that my family is taken care of. And I've known Vince and Missy for...
Shout out the team, the name of the team.
Oh, man, the Healy Connection, Melissa Healy and Vince Vesci and the rest of the team. But I've known for well over a decade that the way that they handle taking care of their clients, the way they built their business is all on referrals and repeat business. And so if I wanted to be able to travel around helping agents, but also make sure that my babies were taken care of, that my clients, my family were taken care of as I'm doing this, there was absolutely no better place.
Yeah, I saw that come together, and I'm like, well, yeah. Couldn't ask for a better fit.
It's great
for them.
Yeah, I'm grateful for it because when I talk about specialization and knowing that when you have a team, you can love your life. It's the agents that are out there trying to be everything to everybody that think that their people need them to be the person doing everything. Instead, your people care that they have a great experience, and a team of people can provide that. Man, did I find the best place to be. Awesome. Yeah. And so the other thing is I want to make sure I share that I love giving away things for free. I love giving away tools and resources. So if you do follow me on Instagram, there's an easy path to getting, I provide a workbook to be able to do your own consultation, a tracking form for you to be able to track the important times. So I love giving things away for free. So when you follow me on Instagram, you can easily find that stuff.
I'm going to tag onto that by saying I will also happily provide for free a roadmap to home ownership. I had looked for materials. I couldn't find anything I really liked, so I wrote my own ebook.
I love this.
Anyone that wants a copy of the roadmap to home ownership, it takes you through the process. Step one, all the way from identifying a neighborhood and all the way through, some things you want to do to make sure you protect your investment after you go to closing. So happy to provide that to anybody who wants a copy.
I got to tell you, in the last 2 years, I've been introduced to people that just things happen. And the timing of things also happens. And we've been talking about doing this and sitting down and doing this and doing it in the spring. We're talking about a buyer agent and a mortgage person, probably the two most important people for anybody listening to think about buying a house, and have those people listening to a message I think that will help them put them in the right direction with a co-author of the experience. But also for me, I'm turning 46 in 3 weeks, and I'm thinking about my time more often now than I ever have in my life. And I don't know, maybe when you hit somewhere in the 40s, you realize that your future is getting smaller and smaller.
Well, that message resonates too, because you were talking about your wedding and your mom, and I just happened to notice that.
That's right.
Actually from my daughter's wedding in Mexico a few weeks, and having that space and time with families, you need it. You have to have it, and it really resets you for what you want to accomplish for the rest of your life. I'm a little bit older than you, so it's important. Those things are hugely
makes me smile, though, to talk about that.
Understand where you're headed in life. You've really brought it today. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I'll come back anytime you need me. I'm here.
So obviously do what you love and love what you do.
I appreciate you so much. I was a great being here. Now you can understand why Just Breathe, that slow walk-up song, is my song. Bring back energy. But I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me.
Take care.